Israel intercepts final Gaza aid flotilla. Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant crisis escalates. U.S. government shutdown enters day 3. Manchester synagogue attack sparks outrage. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Around the World in 30 Minutes on Politics and Business Television. I am Bulus Joanna Ray. Many thanks for joining us. Details of these news stories and more content come after the short break. Stay with us. In the Mediterranean, Israeli naval forces intercepted the final vessel of the global Samud Flotilla, which was attempting to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza. The ship carrying activists from multiple countries was stopped and its passengers detained. Protests erupted in cities around the world, including Rome, London, and Caracas, with demonstrators accusing Israel of violating international law. Israeli officials maintained the flotilla breached its blockade and posed a security threat. Human rights organizations are calling for an independent investigation as tensions in the region continue to mount. The incident marks the end of a week-long campaign by activists to change Israel's Gaza policies. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine are trading accusations over attacks near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, Europe's largest. The facility has lost external power and is relying on emergency diesel generators, raising fears of a nuclear disaster. Ukrainian officials claim Russia deliberately cut power to connect the plant to its own grid. President Putin warned Ukraine against further strikes near the plant and hinted at retaliatory action targeting Ukrainian nuclear sites. The situation has alarmed international observers, with the UN urging restraint and immediate restoration of power. Ukrainian regions near the border, including Sumy and Chernihiv, are reporting widespread outages. A recent prisoner swap between the two countries saw 185 service members and 20 civilians exchange. However, tensions remain high, and the nuclear standoff could mark a dangerous new phase in the war. In the meantime, the United States government remains partially shut down as negotiations between Democrats and Republicans stall over budget disagreements. Federal workers across the country are being furloughed and essential services are operating under strain. The deadlock stem from disputes over healthcare subsidies and proposed spending cuts. Treasury Secretary Brent Bensent warned that the shutdown could cost the economy billions weekly, with GDP growth and employment likely to suffer. President Trump has threatened permanent spending cuts and mass layoffs if Congress fails to reach a deal soon. Public protests have erupted in Washington, D.C. and other cities demanding swift resolution. Meanwhile, federal agencies are prioritizing emergency operations and lawmakers face mounting pressure to compromise before the shutdown deepens its impact. In other news, a rare geological event occurred today in India's Andaman Islands, where the country's only mud volcano erupted after 2 decades of dormancy. The eruption was minor but has drawn significant attention from scientists and locals alike. Authorities have cordoned off the area as geologists monitor for further activity. No injuries or property damage have been reported, but the event has sparked renewed interest in India's unique geological features. Researchers plan to conduct a detailed study of the volcano's behavior, hoping to better understand the mechanisms behind such rare eruptions. Turning to Asia, a powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake hit northern Cebu, killing at least 72 people and displacing over 20,000. Hospitals are overwhelmed and many families are sheltering outdoors amid fears of aftershocks. Rescue operations are ongoing with international aid beginning to arrive. The quake caused widespread damage to infrastructure, including schools, bridges, and homes. The UN has pledged support and local authorities are working to restore essential services. Emergency shelters have been set up, but rescues remain stretched. Experts warn that the region remains vulnerable to seismic activity and rebuilding efforts could take months. The disaster has prompted calls for improved building codes and disaster preparedness across the Philippines. We are still watching around the world in 30 minutes live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, Manchester synagogue attack sparks outrage. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thousands of Canadian truckers remain stranded in the United States today due to a major border outrage that has disrupted trade routes and supply chains. The outage, which began earlier this week, has caused long delays and logistical chaos. Truckers report a lack of facilities, mounting full cost, and growing frustration. Canadian officials are in talks with their U.S. counterparts to expedite a resolution and restore normal operations. The incident has prompted calls for better contingency, planning, and digital infrastructure upgrades at border crossings. Industry leaders warn that prolonged delays could impact food and medical supply availability. Meanwhile, Italy is witnessing one of its largest general strikes in recent history as protests over wage reform and public services have spread to more than 75 cities. Demonstrators are demanding better healthcare, education funding, and climate action. Major transport hubs in Rome and Milan were paralyzed today, with unions vowing to continue the strike until the government agrees to negotiations. The strike has drawn support from students, healthcare workers, and environmental activists. And Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has urged claim, but opposition leaders accuse her administration of ignoring public grievances. The strike is expected to intensify over the weekend. In a tragic turn of events this morning, a commercial boat carrying traders capsized early this morning on the River Niger, leaving at least 26 people dead. Rescue operations are still underway, with emergency crews searching for survivors and recovering bodies from the water. Eyewitnesses say the boat was overloaded and lacked basic safety equipment. Many of the passengers were local market vendors traveling to a nearby town for trade. Authorities have launched an investigation into the incident, and the National Inland Waterways Authority has pledged to enforce stricter safety regulations. Well, the tragedy has sparked national outrage, with calls for improved infrastructure and emergency response systems across Nigeria's waterways. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu expressed condolences to the victims' families and promised federal support for the rescue and recovery efforts. In another development, 2 people were killed in a violent attack outside the synagogue in Manchester, England during Yom Kippur. The suspect rammed the vehicle into pedestrians and then began stabbing worshippers before being shot dead by the police. One of the victims was reportedly struck by police gunfire during the chaos. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer condemned the incident as horrific, warning that anti-Semitism is on the rise. Authorities praised the bravery of synagogue staff and worshippers who prevented the attacker from entering the building. The incident has reignited debates over hate crimes and religious security in Britain. Security has been heightened at religious sites nationwide, and Jewish leaders are calling for stronger protections and community support amid growing concerns over extremist violence. India's landmark trade agreement with European Free Trade Association officially came into force today. The pact is expected to generate $100 billion in investment and create over 1 million jobs across key sectors. The deal covers pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and renewable energy and includes provisions for labor, mobility, and digital trade. Indian officials hailed the agreement as a major step towards global economic integration. Analysts say the pact strengthens India's position in international trade, though challenges remain in aligning with EFTA's regulatory standards. The agreement is being closely watched by other emerging economies. And that wraps up the program, but before we go, the headlines again. And that wraps up the program.